Welcome to the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent.
Good afternoon, Steve. Welcome back to another edition. Wait a minute, episode 29 of Friday at
Wow.
4.
Well,
Yeah,
thanks, Chuck. Glad to be back at
yeah,
29, huh? Wow.
29.
All
Yeah,
right. We're getting there. We're getting there.
yeah.
We got to do a party when we hit 100.
Oh, okay. We'll have to do one a day to get that. It's going to be a while.
Okay. Well, one at a time is still good. Okay.
One at a time, right? Yeah. So, how's the week been? How's everything going? And what's the topic for today?
The week is good. It's been busy, which is a good thing. But more than that, it's been a productive busy because
Nice.
busy is busy, but what are you getting out of it? Um, so the topic I thought of for today, I believe, is so much in the news, not only from a business perspective, but even from an individual perspective. And that is this overall category called cybersecurity, which entails tons of things. And I am not a cybersecurity expert, um, not even close. Okay, don't want
Not
to
even
be.
close.
It's not my thing, but that's okay. But there are people who are. Um, but it's becoming more and more prevalent again for businesses and individuals.
Yeah.
So I guess we could start, doesn't matter which one. Let's start with the individual. It really doesn't matter. Um, Cybersecurity can come in any number of forms. And again, like I said, my experience is limited, so I'm going to give you my experience, but I tell you it goes much broader. So keep that in mind. Um, And it starts with an individual signs in to their email. Now, the first thing to consider, and again, there's tons of things, but the way I work is the first thing I look at is what email did it come from?
Yeah.
If it's somebody I really have no idea, I might look at it without clicking on it. So depending on the email program you use, sometimes they're listed on one side and then you can see the body of the email on the other side when the screen is split. So if that email doesn't look right, doesn't come from somebody you know, just immediately delete.
Mm,
Don't click on anything, don't do anything, just delete it.
yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
there's got
No, I was just clearing my throat, but there was,
no.
I don't know if it's still relevant today, but there was a scam a while back to where if you had your email in reading pain mode, like you're talking about, as
Mhm.
soon as you open up your email, boom, it's already infecting you.
Wow. Okay,
Hmm.
which is good to know because I never hit that, but that's a great thing to know. So, to the point, if you see an email from an address you don't know, just immediately delete. Don't even open it up. Just
Yeah.
immediately delete it. Because again,
Yep.
they're getting very sophisticated. So
Yes, they
just
are.
delete it. The other
Yeah.
thing that I heard from somebody recently, they looked at the email and it looked at quick glance, it looked correct. Now, again, I'm not technical, but what it turned out was the email, the letters that were used were correct, but one of the letters was a different font.
Yep.
Now,
How
again,
they get you.
not being technical, but
Yep.
somehow that font made it I don't want to say illegal, but not the real address. So that when the person opened it up,
Yep.
done. They
Boom.
were done. It was gone.
Yep.
So again, be careful. So to your point, if it's something you're not sure of, just delete it. Now
Yeah.
let's assume, go ahead.
And let me give you a little tip too. Like what you can do if it looks legit, but you don't think it is, you can actually click on the name
Mhm.
of the person it's coming from,
Right.
and you can see the email address. So you can
Mhm.
see if it says like, Steve Kent FFS or,
Right.
Steve with the weird E in it. You can see that and be like, this is not really from Steve.
Right.
Delete it. That's another trick too.
Yeah. That's a very important point.
Yeah.
Right click on the email address and you'll see where it's coming from. And again, if
You
you're
got
not
it.
sure, better to be safe and just delete it.
You got it, buddy.
So now, once you have an email that you think is coming from a place that you know, then you have to take a look and you open it up, and then you can read it. But again, be careful about any links
Yeah.
because there are programs out there that when you click on the link, it very quickly downloads a piece of software to your computer
Yep.
and it puts in a virus
Yep.
or a ransomware, which means they're going to lock the computer and then you get a message, pay X dollars or your data is gone. And
Like the
that's
one from the
happened.
FBI. You remember
Yeah.
that one?
So yeah, so that's why I know I personally I back up everything. Every
Yeah.
day I back everything up.
Yeah.
So worst case I lose that day's work, but that's it. Um, Also, if you have attachments like documents, Word documents, PDF documents, Excel spreadsheets, they can embed viruses into those documents. So you can click on the document, it will open up as a legitimate document. But in that split second it takes to open up, again, virus goes in, wipes out your computer, your hard drive, ransomware,
Yep.
and all those things that happen. So,
Yep.
you know,
And some companies won't even allow PDFs to go through because I did not know that they can
correct.
embed things in PDFs now.
Hmm.
I was trying to send a friend of mine a PDF months ago. It wouldn't go. I had to send them the Word doc and it went.
Right, right. Yeah, so you got to
Crazy.
be really, really careful.
Yeah.
Um, there are also a lot of emails that come out, including text messages that from the IRS. Well, we're doing an audit and we see something that's not right, log into this site and, verify. Or, you owe $1,000, send it, or we're gonna garnish your salary or something.
Yeah.
But be aware, the IRS does not email, does not text. The IRS sends you a physical letter through the mail. So if you get anything IRS related, that lovely button called delete.
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 Yep. Yep. Have you heard about
So
the latest one with the toll violations through a text message?
that's my next thing on the list.
Sweet.
So here in New York, I don't know if it's all across the country, but here
It's
in
all
New
across the
York and a
country.
bunch of other states, they have Easy
Yeah.
Pass. So
Yeah.
there's this little device that sits on your windshield, and when you go through, it either goes against your credit card or it goes against your your checking account. Mine goes
Yep.
against the checking account. But more and more are coming out lately where there's been a problem, your Easy Pass isn't working, confirm your bank account information.
Confirm your bank number, right? Sure, let me click on it.
Another
There you
one,
go.
the infamous delete key.
Right.
They will also send you the letter through the mail. So
Yeah.
again, be very careful what you click on. Um, there's also a big push lately that they're targeting seniors because a lot of seniors, if they get on a computer, they don't understand a lot of this stuff
Yeah.
and they may not process things fast enough. So they'll click. And again, it'll, send money, do this, do that. And my cousin, she's 85. Last year,
Mhm.
she got a message from somebody, supposedly somebody she knew, that said, I'm in trouble, blah, blah, blah. Can you send $50? So she said, okay, 50, no big deal. I'll send $50. Well, what ended up happening was she types in 50, hits the send, and it goes. The next day, she looks at her online account. They did something to it and they made it $500. They added a zero.
Wow.
And thankfully, she had a printout of what she did and she went to the bank and they gave her back her money, but they didn't have to.
Yeah, sure.
Um, So
Yeah.
yeah, so again, be very, very, very careful.
Hmm.
Um, Another thing that I've seen come out lately is take a survey.
That's a tricky one there.
Take a survey.
Yeah.
Is it legit or not? So part of my thing with a survey is, did I go, like I just recently had a doctor's appointment and just a normal visit, and I got a survey from the hospital that I went to. So I did it. I did what you said. I right clicked on the email address. It looked legit.
Mm.
And I was really 50-50 of do I take it or not? But I ended up taking it. Um, but again, you got to be really careful because if you put in a survey, sometimes just answering questions, sometimes behind the scenes, when you click on one of the responses, it goes in, pulls your information, downloads a virus, does all that silly stuff. So again, you got to be really careful what you're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point with surveys like that to check where it's coming from, because a lot of them is no reply at the company. So
mm,
it's semi legit, at least still click on it to see where it actually is coming from. Yeah, good stuff.
yeah. Well, when I see something that says no reply, I really look at it going, if it says no reply to me, okay, I won't reply.
Yeah.
I'm complying
Delete,
with what they want. It says no
delete,
reply, so I don't reply.
delete.
Like delete
Right,
my
right.
thing, my thing.
Yeah.
But okay. Um, One that I know a few people that got caught in this, and again, seniors, where they would get a call from whoever and say, your niece, your nephew, your something is out of the country, is in trouble, is hurt. They need you to send money. We got to get them help. We got to get them home, you know, and they really ratchet up the pressure. And you got to do it now. You got to do it now. You got to do it now. And again, if you're older, I mean, it can happen to younger too, but they target the old. So if you're older and you're not thinking clearly, and then you get emotional, you could turn around and send money. And it's gone. It's gone.
Yeah.
There's somebody in one of my networking groups who works for a title company. So when you buy a house, they do the title to make sure it's free and clear and nobody can come back later and take the house and all that stuff.
Right.
But he tells stories where people hack in. Again, I don't know how they do this, and I don't want to know how they do this, but they hack in and they get all the details of that transaction. They
Yeah.
know the attorneys, they know the property address, they know everything. And they send out an email that looks 100% legit. And what it says is, in order to close on the deal tomorrow, which they know all the details, we need $150,000 wired to the account today to get the paperwork done.
Get it going. Yeah.
And people
Yeah.
who don't know, who want to close tomorrow, don't want to hold it up, send the money
Yeah.
and wire it out. So you wire it
Yeah.
now, it's out now, and it's gone. And
Speaking of that scam, back in probably around 2005, 2006, something like that, maybe somewhere around that range. I got a Facebook message from a friend of mine who said he was in the UK and can't get on my plane or a train or something.
right.
And you send me some money. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Are you okay? No, I'm not, blah, blah, blah. So I actually text my friend and said, hey, buddy, how are things? Are you okay? Because I got this message saying, from Facebook. He's like, no, but it's a scam. I'm good. I'm home. Yeah.
But you see, but you were
Yeah.
smart.
Yeah.
You actually sent the message saying, are you okay?
Yeah.
They don't count on you doing that because they try
Right.
to ratchet up the pressure. You got to do it now, got to do it now.
Gotta do
So
it
you
now.
were smart. Yeah.
Yep.
I almost got caught a couple of years ago that I
Mm.
got something with a moving company.
Oh, wow.
And the reason I stopped it and I fell for it all the way through. And I stopped it because at the end, they wanted me to go to a gas station and get gift cards and mail the gift cards because they're untraceable.
Right. Yep.
And when I got to the gas station, I something and I stopped and I was like, wait a minute,
What
what
am
am
I
I
doing?
doing?
Right.
And it was a couple of $1,000.
Yeah.
And thankfully I stopped and I called up the number and I said, I went to the gas station, they were out of cards. Do you have another option? And like, well, you got to go back, find another gas station. And I said, well, can I get a receipt? Oh no, we don't have receipts. At that point I knew what was going on. Now I started
Red
to play
flag at that
them.
point. Yeah.
And I kept them on the phone about 10 minutes. And I said, just for your curiosity, the police are on the other line. Now they were not, but I said, the police are on the other line. They have traced it. They will be to your location in the next 5 minutes. Click.
Right.
And they were
Click.
gone. Yeah.
Gone.
Yeah. So, but I almost got caught. But yeah, so you got to be really, really careful.
Yeah. Sometimes they can be really
Yeah,
slick with these things.
they can. And they're
Yeah.
getting more and more sophisticated.
Every day.
So that's a little bit from my perspective on the individual side.
Yeah.
But
How
if
about
you
the
look at
QR codes? That's another one.
QR codes also, they can
They're
be
putting a QR
scammy. They
code
could,
over top of a legit one, especially the parking meters is where they're really doing it.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah.
crazy.
And you don't know because it
Yeah.
looks legit. And you can't right
Yep.
click on a URL. It is or it isn't. That's
Yep.
why when I go to a meter, I make sure I have a whole bunch of quarters with me because I will not use the QR code.
There aren't any of those where I live anymore. They don't
Okay.
have any of them that take money, but
Wow.
you go to the app and you put the
Okay.
number in.
Okay.
So that's a legit way. There's no
Got
way
it.
you can get around that.
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, but never use
So
QR codes, especially like on an
not on a
open
parking
meter.
meter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Never use them. That's why
Right.
I also won't go to a bank ATM because if it's secluded or dark, people put those skimmers on, where you put your card in, they put the skimmers on
Yeah.
and
Yep.
they read your card.
Yeah.
Now they got your information.
Yep.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
from the company side, there's a whole bunch of things that they can do. So again, they target again, I think the term is phishing, where they'll
Mhm.
send in emails to like large numbers of people in the company. And all you need is one person to click on that email and it
Yep.
sends a virus in and the whole company is now infected. Um, I've heard stories where you have a company and they do everything right, but they still get attacked. Virus wise, they get attacked.
Yeah.
And they find that an external vendor could be air conditioning, could be something that taps into the company's systems, that the hackers come in through that external vendor, through their software into the company. So it's not even just a direct, it's now an indirect. Somebody I know owns here in New York owns a very successful cybersecurity company. And what they do is and they're not cheap, but they're well worth it because the downside of getting caught is going to cost a heck of a lot more in dollars, lost data, reputation. So people pay. And what
That's
they
absolutely
do,
correct.
oh yeah.
Yep.
And what
Yep.
they do is they go in and they protect your computer and they'll say, you have a database of information. They will then take a firewall so you can't access it. And then they put a dummy database on top of it, which is the external facing. And they monitor the dummy database. Now, overnight, because that's when typically they come in, is when nobody's around to watch the screen going and whatever they're doing. Now, external people come into the dummy database and they're watching it. So the data they're getting is bogus, but while they're running the scripts, they're quickly gathering the data where the attack is coming from. And they notify the police or the FBI
Right.
or whoever they notify. So they're getting it faster, and that's what they do. And
Right.
they've caught quite a few that way.
That's great. That's
Yeah,
awesome. Yeah. Catch
yeah,
them,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how they do it. There's also something called, well, yeah, I got it. One more thing, and then I got a few other things here. Um, and duh. I'm doing well today. It is a Friday
It's
at
Friday.
4. Okay.
Friday four.
But they have what they call, well, we all know what a hacker does. A hacker taps in illegally into a person's computer or a business's computer. Then they have something called an ethical hacker. An ethical hacker, and I think sometimes it's called a white hat hacker. I'm not sure about that. What that person does is they will monitor a person, or most likely a company because they're expensive. They will monitor a company's computers looking for people who hacked in. So they're on the good side. They're catching the hackers. That's the ethical side of ethical hacker. They're on the
Yeah.
good side. They're catching the bad guys. And there are quite a few. And I know one person who does that, very, very successful. Yeah, very well known, great reputation. Um, Big demand for that
Yeah.
type of um,
I'm sure.
so yeah, so that's what they do. And there are different ways, but again, the bigger companies in theory can afford to spend the money, but again, it's the data, the reputation, and all those things, downtime. But if
Yeah.
you're a small company, a mom and pop store, a solopreneur, you don't have all that money. So the only thing you can do is inform constantly the staff. Don't do. If you have any questions before you do it, call me over. So at
Yeah.
least make them aware of what's going on.
Right.
And that's really the only thing you can do in that case.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
it's just scary the way it's going. Now, I spoke to a guy, actually happened to have been today, and there are certain types of software that you can put on your computer, either individual or business. And again, there's plenty, but I only know a few of them that will monitor real time what's going on. Now, keep in mind, you can have a software program that looks for malware, looks for viruses, but they come up with new ones every single day. And if
Hard to
your
keep ahead of them.
program isn't
Yeah.
up to date,
Yep.
even by an hour, and it can't be up to date because they're coming out with something at noontime today, you
Yeah.
may not get an update to your virus software until 3 o'clock this afternoon.
Yeah.
In that 3 hour window, you could get hit.
Yep.
But
So true.
they have malware, they have antivirus routines. But again, real time is better, and not all are created equal. Some are better than others. I use a couple, they're free and they're somewhat effective, but again, partially because they're free and partially because they're not, well, they're real time, but again, how real time is real time.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
but I don't have anything on my computer that I can get caught with. I purposely don't because I know what's going on. Um, but if you do, you're at risk. Um, there are some that again are not as good as others. There are some that they tell you stay away from. The call I was on this morning, and you know what? I'm not going to mention any because I don't want to get a lawsuit against me. Okay. But what I can tell you is there is a site called CNET, CNET.com. Go into that site. It's an independent company, I guess, that does all kinds of evaluations on a whole bunch of stuff. You know, top 10 of this, top 5 of that. And again, it's free, it's independent. So if you want, let's say, a antivirus routine, go into CNET and look up antivirus, and it'll give you the top 10,
Yeah.
and it'll tell you why.
They've been
Uh,
doing that for a long time. See, it's been around for a while.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so they're reputable. They have,
Yeah.
they know what they're doing. They have some really good, knowledgeable people working for them. And I use
Yeah.
them every so often too if I'm looking for a piece of software. So that's something to use. So if you are a company, I would suggest, and again, I'm not recommending anybody, so do your research, but look at a cybersecurity company.
Mhm.
Look how long they've been around, ask for recommendations. But in my mind, it's worth that little bit of money, again, for the reputation,
Absolutely.
for the loss of data, for the downtime, the cost factor if you had to pay to get your data back. Because you've heard of ransomware where they hijack your computer and you get the message across, pay $1 million.
Right.
But even if you pay the $1 million, there is no guarantee you will get your data back.
That's right. Yep.
So you're really in deep trouble.
Yeah. I got two backups.
You're smart. You're
Yep.
smart. That's
Yep.
why I back it up every night. So
Yep.
worst case scenario, I lose that day's work, and
Yep.
that's
I
it.
got I got a terabyte thumb drive and I forgot how many gig external drive I have too. I
Hmm.
put it on. So
But
yeah.
you're smart. You're
Yep.
smart. It
I'm glad we had this
this
conversation. It reminds me to go ahead and back my stuff up. I haven't backed up in a couple of weeks. It's been a while.
we really need to. There's a
Yeah.
guy I know who's a photographer. He is, and again, it depends how you want to say is it enough or not.
Right.
But because of photographer, he does weddings and other things, so he's got thousands and thousands of pictures. He
Yeah.
said he has his laptop and he has three external hard drives. He
Yeah.
backs it up three times just in case.
Right.
Is
Yeah.
that overkill? I don't know. It depends on
Who
how
knows?
sensitive your data is. It depends.
Yeah. So
There's no right
true.
or wrong, but that's what's
Yeah.
going on,
Yep.
and it's very scary.
Yeah. Wonderful world of cyber attacks. It's definitely not fun. It's very interesting and it can
Yeah,
happen in so many
yeah,
ways,
yeah.
more ways than we even talked about. There's so many
Oh
things
yeah,
out there that we have to be careful of,
yeah.
So
There's
yeah.
stuff we don't know. Yeah. In fact, one of the majors in college that is gaining quickly in popularity is cybersecurity.
Yeah.
There is such a demand that if you have any smarts about computers and how to do this, and it gets somewhat technical, way over my head, I'll tell you that. But if you, it is, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Um, but if you have an inclination to do that, it may be something to look at. It's a wide open field, and where it is today, there's such a need, and not even close to being enough people that you could make significant money coming right out of college. I mean, right out of college, you could
Yeah.
easily make six figures.
Yeah.
Um,
Just imagine these threats with cyber attacks when you start adding AI to it. That's a whole other
oh,
game, you know?
it's
Yeah.
it's going to be scary, and it is now, but it's going to get worse.
Yeah. It's going to
Yeah,
get worse. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Hmm. But
So
that's it.
back when I was a young man, when computers were just being kind of in the mainstream of the homes, I was doing some of that stuff when I was a kid. And I was like,
Oh
you know
yeah,
what? I don't think this is good. Yeah, I've done some stuff. Yeah.
oof.
And I'm sure what I knew back then is not relevant today, but
Hmm.
it was interesting. But
Wow.
yeah, I was on that side of it for a little while. Sorry, I
I
put that
I
out there.
never got into it, but then again,
Yeah.
when I was young, I played with the abacus, so but okay, but
Yeah. Yeah. You and T Rex were playing with the abacus.
me and T-Rex, yep.
Wonderful.
Yeah, but it's again, it's something that take seriously, seriously,
Yeah.
take it to heart. They
Yeah.
don't take anything for granted. Don't,
Yeah.
because you could find yourself behind the eight ball and may not be able to get back around. So just be
Absolutely.
careful. Yeah,
Yeah, it's definitely something to make sure everything you get, every call you get. And don't forget the one about what they call you and say, hey, is this Steve Kent? Don't say yes.
right. Thank you for
Yeah.
mentioning that.
Uh-huh.
Never say yes. If somebody
Yeah.
says, "Is this Steve Kent?" Always say, "It
Speaking.
is. How can I
Speaking.
help you?" Seriously,
Yep.
never say yes because they
Never
are
say yes.
recording
Yeah.
that yes.
Yeah.
And the fact that you said yes can be used against you in any number of sites. And when they go back and they do the audio comparison, it's
Yep.
your voice. You
It's your
have
voice.
no way out. So
Yep.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep.
Never say
You
yes,
got
always
it.
say it is. How can I help you?
Yep. Or we could use the cruncher slangs. Yes. I never say yes. I never say, yeah, it is.
Actually, what I did once, because I knew it was a scam based on the phone number that came up, I answered the phone saying, District Attorney's Office, can I help you?
There you go.
And they hung up right away. So I knew I
Yep.
knew what it was, but yeah.
Right.
But
District
yeah,
Attorney's
it was
Office.
interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
The New York Police Department. How can
New
I
York
help you?
Police Department. Can I help you?
NYPD. What can I help you with? Nice. Yeah, Steve, great conversation.
Yeah,
Good one.
yeah. Had a good
Yeah.
time today. It was a good conversation.
A lot of good information, a lot of helpful
Mhm.
information. I'll make sure I put,
Mhm.
a lot of good notes in the description so people can
Okay.
really
Yeah,
know that, what we're talking about is,
yeah.
some serious stuff with scams and phishing and all that stuff.
Yep.
And,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, good stuff.
Just keep in mind, there's a ton more than we went over today because it's way beyond my scope. But do your due diligence, read, look on YouTube, um, call in an expert, just stay safe. That's all I can say. Ask is stay safe.
Yeah, right. I mean, you said it best. Just stay safe the best you can and make sure you're
Right.
very diligent
Yeah.
looking at emails and
Hmm.
don't answer those phone calls that you don't know who they are. And if they're leaving messages, just delete them. So,
Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. Yep. Well, Steve,
All
thanks a
right.
lot. Appreciate the time.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good time.
It's,
Yours as well.
yeah. Thanks for coming back on the Friday at 4 because
It's 4 o'clock somewhere.
you got that right, buddy.
I'm getting there.
Yeah, you're getting it, man. Enjoy the rest of the day and the evening.
You
Enjoy
too.
the weekend, and we'll talk soon, buddy.
You got it. Thanks, Chuck. Take care.
See you,
Have a
buddy.
great weekend, everyone.
Yes, sir.
Take
Everybody have a
care.
great weekend. Bye.
Bye.
You've been watching the Friday at 4 podcast series with your host Charles Luttrell and co-host Steve Kent. Thanks for watching.